14 before the hour. Welcome back to the Friday edition of News Talk here on News Channel 8. I'm Bruce DePoit alongside attorney Dan Ruttenberg. We're talking about wills, trusts, and estates. We're going to the phones to answer some of your questions. Sally in Rockville, I hope you're still there on line 1. Thank you for your patience. Go right ahead, please.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Sally.
We're about to purchase long-term care insurance, and I just would like the opinion whether that's good or not good, since it's very expensive, and we think it's good, but if I could have an opinion, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, stay on the line, so if you and Dan want to converse back and forth about this.
That's a great question, Sally. Long-term care insurance is a very important part of an estate plan for the right person. It does depend. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for 20-year-olds. You know, 20-year-olds are, the odds of needing it in the short term are pretty remote. Not all insurance companies will even offer it. But if you're in your 50s, it is very important. Even if you have enough money to self-insure, it still often will pay for itself if you need. Certainly if you need it, it'll pay for itself. The cost of long-term care these days is very, very high. So if you're in that age group or older, I would certainly look into that.
Who are you thinking about buying for, Sally?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part of your question.
Sure. Who are you thinking about buying for? Is it for an elderly relative or yourself? Or
myself and my husband. We are in our 50s, and we just thought we would use part of the money that we're setting aside for retirement to pay for this, because in the end, if we did need it, it would be worth so much more than what we put into it.
I'll bet there are a lot of people in Sally's age range, and I'm not far from there myself, who are doing these exact calculations.
Yeah, and especially if you know, if your husband has to go into a facility, you don't want to necessarily dip into all of your money. It can really have a dramatic effect on your lifestyle, being the competent spouse. So in that situation, I think it is absolutely something that you should be looking into.
Does one shop around, compare prices and quote benefits, or you know, is there comparison work you would do here as with anything else?
Yeah, I would look into. There's a lot of different elements to long-term care insurance. How long before it starts paying? How long does it pay for? Does it pay a certain dollar amount every day? Is the same benefit that you get if you're trying to do at-home care the same as you are for a facility? So these are all things you want to look at and make sure when you're comparing you do an apples and apples comparison.
Good advice. Back to the phones. Let's pick up on line 2 now, and we'll say hi to Barbara in Lorton. Hello, Barbara.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, my question is, I'm on disability right now, and I have been for approximately 15 years now. I don't have many assets. I do have 2 children. One's grown, one will be 16 in September. My question is, do I need to go to a professional to have a will drawn up, or can I go online and get one of those do-it-yourself wills from there?
Yeah, Barbara has a question right from my list. I think that's a very, very good question. Thank you, Barbara.
That's a valid question. Barbara, you need to be trying to do it from a kit is incredibly dangerous because you don't know what you're doing. And even if the documents you're getting have the appropriate language, it's not necessarily the case that you're going to pick the right options. This is not something that anyone should try to do or a layperson should do. You should be guided through this, and you really, really do not want to. I can't recommend trying to use a kit. That is very dangerous, and I've all too often seen very negative results from someone not picking the right options.
I think we have a phone line or 2 open if you want to join us at 703-387-1020. I think we can squeeze in at least one more call. We'll try for 2, but if you have a question, ask it at 703-387-1020. We have a couple minutes left. In terms of trust, in terms of estate planning, what sorts of things are you talking with your clients about right now?
Very commonly you're dealing with, obviously, you know, wills. Where do my assets go? That's what everyone thinks of with estate planning, but it goes much beyond that, and that's where the eyes really open up when someone comes into my office. You're dealing with what happens with the children. You know, you don't want a custody battle with your children when you die. That's the last thing those children need. There's obviously been some news about that, and that's the last thing those children need.
So who looks after the kids?
Who looks after the kids? Who looks after the kids' money? When do they get the money? What should the money be spent for? Estate taxes. There's, you know, that's a moving target these days, but it's a target that more people, and most people don't even think they're subject to it, but they are. They don't realize their asset level is at a level where they might need to pay estate taxes. Even if the federal number's $3.5 million and it stays there, which it's not scheduled to currently unless they change the law, your locality, if you live in D.C. or Maryland, you still might be subject to an estate tax. And they don't think about everything in their estate. For example, the proceeds from a life insurance policy. If they own the policy, it's in their estate. So that's a big topic, estate taxes. One that people sometimes think about is probate, and what are the issues with probate and how do I avoid it? And one big issue people don't think about are privacy concerns. I teach estate planning to a lot of financial advisors. I give courses sometimes. And I talk about how people will go down to the courthouse. Probate's public record. So people go down to the courthouse and they look at the recent probate filings and they target the beneficiaries. I know they do it because...
By target, you mean?
I mean, they call them. They call them up, and I know at least some people do it because they're raising their hands.
Trying to sell them stuff?
Yeah, trying to sell them stuff. But I don't know if there's people doing it for nefarious purposes. But the bottom line is, if you have the ability to keep that information private, most people want to. And the other thing most people don't think about is access to the assets if they become disabled. And that's a really big concern that people just don't even think about.
We have about a minute left. If I'm middle-aged and I'm either caring for an elderly parent or I'm very, very involved in the life of an elderly parent or two, do I need to think about them almost the way I would think about minor children?
I don't know if it's the same about minor children, but it depends on their situation. But I absolutely, if I'm doing that, I'm making sure they've done the plans. I'm putting them probably in a living trust to make sure that I can access those assets and don't have to go through a court proceeding to get access to those assets. I want to make it so that it goes very smoothly. You've already got enough issues if your parents are having those sorts of issues. You don't need to deal with the courts as well. So I would absolutely be doing that planning now.
Dan Ruttenberg is an attorney in Tyson's Corner who specializes in wills, estates, and trusts. We had a couple calls we didn't get to. I apologize. We will have you back soon if you'll be nice enough to come back, and we'll go back at people's questions and comments. But great having you in. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Good having you here. Thanks very much.